The Deli has still been red hot and is back open for business here in week 14 of college football. Those barking dogs are going to keep us cashing through the end of the regular season and hopefully on to those bowl games. The Seam Report from VR. Get ready to rapid fire, write down all those sharp plays. And of course, best bets on an incredible college football weekend up next on Bet On It. There are tons of top 25 games this weekend, so it was hard for me to choose, but I just went with the Saturday games because I need this show to have a little bit of longevity with the Thanksgiving holiday. So we are going to touch on a couple of those Friday games here, at least from a conversational perspective. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Gianni the Greek, Marco D'Angelo, and we're going to get right into this. I'm up first, and this is a game that's, well, frankly, I didn't think it would be that interesting, but it sure is. 12 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Number 15, Michigan at number 1, Ohio State. Ohio State, 9.5, 10 here on the odds logic screen. 45.5 is the total. And this is why it's interesting. Michigan has won and covered each of the last 4 meetings, including last year as 19.5-point road underdogs. They won 13-10 in Columbus. Ohio State, sure, they control their own destiny. If they win here, they're going to the Big Ten championship game, but a loss would keep them at home next weekend. Here's my question, though. Do they really care about a conference championship? Sure, they care about beating Michigan because they're huge rivals, but this team's already looking ahead to the college football playoff. They also have a couple guys that are banged up. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate both missed last weekend against Rutgers. Ryan Day has not alluded to whether they will be available for this game, so definitely check their status prior to making any wagers. Michigan, back to that Big Ten conference game, still has an outside shot to make it. They need to win here and hope that Washington can beat Oregon. We'll get to Washington here in just a little bit. But for my friends at the Gold Sheet, if you're interested in the total, since 2019, there have been 9 instances with 2 9+ win teams playing the final week of the regular season. And that includes 9 Michigan-Ohio State games, or 4 of the 9, excuse me. All 9 of those games have gone over the total by an average margin of 9.2 points per game. That system also applies to Georgia Tech, Georgia. I think this is a lot of points here for a game in which I bet against Michigan last week in hopes that they would be looking ahead here. Not a huge opinion, but I do lean Michigan in this one. Maybe Marco's got a bigger opinion on this next game. Another noon Eastern on ABC. Number 13, Miami at number 20 for Pittsburgh. Almost a touchdown here, Marco. 59.5 is the total.
Yeah, Kelly, and Pitt backed up what their coach said 2 weeks ago. Remember when he said prior to the Notre Dame game, I don't care if we lose 103-10. The only thing that matters is the next 2 ACC games. Well, part 1, they took care of business. They beat Georgia Tech 42-28. But Georgia Tech's not as good as people thought. VR told you that last week with his power ratings. You saw it on the field with Pitt dismantling them. Pitt was able to have their way because Georgia Tech defense isn't that good. Miami is a good defense. But you know what's even better? That Miami offense. And that Miami defense, they've held every opponent but one to 24 points or fewer, and they've held 7 of their opponents to 17 or less. When it comes to stopping the Miami offense, Pitt's going to have problems because Miami has scored 34 or more 6 times this year. The Miami passing attack, by far the best passing attack that Pitt has seen this year. And let's not forget, you got to point it out, but Miami might need style points. So they're not going to take their foot off the gas in this one. I'm going to go ahead and take Miami. I'm going to lay the 6.5 against my Pitt Panthers. Yeah, I bet against my teams as much as I go with them. That's why I love Kelly. And now I'm feeling your pain that I went against Chicago in our Thanksgiving video. Wow, did I get some pushback from the comment section. You got to bet with your head and not your heart. And whenever we make a play against a team, it's not because we don't like that team.
Yeah.
We just like the other play better that week.
Yeah, that's funny. I always get that. Oh, you hate so-and-so's team. You hate this team. And I'm like, no, I just enjoy betting against them because they're not very good against the spread. VR, you are up next. We got 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Number 12, Vanderbilt, catching just around a field goal at number 18, Tennessee. 64.5 here is the total. Before we get into the breakdown here, do you think Diego Pavia has a shot to win the Heisman? Have you seen any Heisman action? I know that he's been in the conversation, the mix, as well as Sayin, as well as Mendoza, and of course, Jeremiah Love.
No, I haven't seen any sharp action on him at all. And I haven't seen any futures on Heisman. And you would think this year that would be the case, especially since they got it wrong at the beginning. And the odds have been shifting so much that you would get at least some of the betting syndicates. I'm sure sharps have gotten involved, sharp bettors in college football have gotten down, but none of the groups that I provide accounts for have gotten involved with the Heisman race at all. And I don't know if he's a front runner. They say he is, at least right now. But I think Vandy's phony. And that's the bottom line. That's the problem. And I think they're going to get exposed eventually, if not this week. And that shot of the Heisman, I think, goes with it. Here's the bottom line. I've been talking about Vandy being overvalued, overranked this entire season. And I know some of you guys don't like hearing me use the word power rating over and over, but that's all it comes down to. At the end of the day, it's my numbers versus their numbers, and which one is more efficient at predicting the true implied win probability between team A and team B. That's the bottom line. We could talk X's and O's. We could talk players' names. We could talk all this nonsense, all this shit. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what's the point spread? What should it be? Is there a difference? And do you fire? That's it. Everything else is just noise. And when you come in with a 30-9 record on bet on it, my analysis should be because I said so, and that's it. If I wanted to be a dick, and not even give one. But with that said, let's give you a little analysis. Here's the bottom line. Tennessee's the better team. At least 10 spots power rating wise better. I have Tennessee right now in my top 15. I don't have Vanderbilt in my top 20. All right. And Vanderbilt's had a 25th toughest schedule. And with that, they've had 13th most efficient offense, 45th most efficient defense. Tennessee's had the 18th toughest schedule. So tougher than Vanderbilt. And they've had the number one defense. So the number one offense, forgive me, number one most efficient offense. And now they're going up against a 45 ranked defense. They're going to have a good time on Saturday against Vanderbilt's defense. That's for sure. It's going to force that Vanderbilt offense to try to get it done. They're going to have a problem. Like I said, they had a tough strength of schedule. Tennessee defense is the weak side of the ball. But I don't think Vandy's going to be able to do too much damage there. Tennessee minus 2.5 juiced is a gift. -3 is a gift. They win this one by double digits. Don't tease Vanderbilt. It's not enough. You're seeing the total getting steamed over. It's because Tennessee's going to have an easy time putting points on the board. I haven't gotten to the window with it. That's the disclaimer. Again, I can give you what I had for the show between now and kickoff. Hopefully I get confirmation, but right now I do like Tennessee, just haven't fired.
All right, VR, I'm going to let you fire all of your stuff here in a minute on the Steam report. But first, I want to let you guys know this week you can get a free copy of the Gold Sheet right now. Go right over to this website. Dan Alexander is going to put it on the screen for me. And it's a Picks and Parlays website, actually. And it's available also on the Gold Sheet page. Whichever is easiest for you guys. Right here is your website to get a free copy of this week's Gold Sheet. All right, VR, like I do on Last Call every single Saturday, I just let you go and do your thing, and then I let the comments sort it out afterwards.
All right, let's run through 5 for Friday, 5 for Saturday. I'll tell you, only 2 games have gotten resistance, a little high profile, so we're going to touch on them. Start off with Friday's action, and this is a big weekend. Again, you're going to see a lot of movement day of the game. People are off from work, TV games, drinking, betting, and betting syndicates, wise guys, sharps all know this. Money moves lines just as much as respect. So when a lot of money gets bet, it moves some of these lines out of whack. That's where you see a lot of that late steam come in. That's why I haven't released all that much. The market changes based on participants. And this week's participants are a little bit different than last week's. It's more like bowl season kind of. So keep that in mind. 316, under 47.5, all the way down to under 45, Ohio versus Buffalo. Then Mississippi State, they took the points +8 and +7.5. Haven't touched it at that key number of 7. 319, Iowa, -5.5 and -5 and 5.5 against Nebraska. Then 324, Kansas, +13.5, 12.5, all the way down to like 11.5, I think, against Utah. They laid the Georgia -13.5 against Georgia Tech. We talked about how Georgia Tech was phony. Then Saturday, 339, Florida State, +2, +1.5, +1 against Florida. 341, Texas Tech, -21, 22, 23. But at 24, the West Virginia money started coming in. So that's one of those where there is resistance. 353, Kentucky, +4, +3.5. Haven't touched the key number of 3 versus Louisville. 358, South Carolina, -2 and 2.5. But Clemson at that key number of +3. That sticks out a lot. 361, Wake Forest, +3. Took the 2.5s out and took the 1.5s out as well versus Duke. That's your steam report for college football. Best of luck this weekend. A lot of money to be made out there throughout the entire weekend for sure.
All right, guys, we're going to see you on Saturday with VR, going over some last-minute steam. Maybe we can codify some of those as potential winners. Speaking of winners, this has been our best segment, not only in college football, but in the NFL. And mainly that's my fault because the best bets in the NFL segment have sucked so bad. But my barking dogs have been really good. And I'm going back with the same dog that I went with last week. Marco. The only reason why is because Marco took one of my dogs and VR took the other one. And I can't really decide here on my 3-team money line parlay. Maybe Marco can get me to the window with the Hokies.
All right. Okay. Well, you know what? If you've been doing so good with your barking dogs and me and VR keep taking the ones you wanted, shouldn't you be thanking us? Because where your landing's winning. I tell you, women, you can't ever make them happy. All right.
Here's the problem. Let me just say this. Here's the problem, if you will. I'm the host of the show, okay? And I want to showcase your guys as not only experts, but your talents and give you guys the best games to give to our audience. If I came on here and gave out the same barking dog as you, these people would riot, Marco. They would lose their minds. Now,
you're right. And it's more information. They want your opinion. It's more information. There's so much randomness to shows, Kel. I've had a winning year on shows and I've gotten buried in real life. And I've had it where I've gotten crushed on shows and had the best season. Like there's a lot of randomness involved. You know that.
It is. And there's a lot of dogs barking every single weekend. That's why we love college football. Last weekend, I gave out 2 stinkers of a dog, though. And at least I didn't go head to head with Marco. Okay. You guys, we're learning. This is called growth. Marco, tell me why you like Virginia Tech and why I should be using them in my underdog parlay this week.
Well, Kelly, the beauty of rivalry week is, sometimes you just throw the stats out because it's a different animal. Excuse the pun there, being barking dog segment. But, some teams have everything to play for and some have nothing to play for other than spoiling their arch rival plans. Or if they're not going to a bowl game, you hear the phrase a lot of times, this is their bowl game. This is their Super Bowl. Well, that's the case we have here. Virginia has everything to play for. They're trying to get to the ACC championship game while Virginia Tech will be home for the holidays. but Virginia Tech would like nothing better than to prevent their arch rival from going to the ACC championship game. This is Virginia Tech's bowl game. And now that James Franklin has been announced as the head coach, now obviously he's not coaching here, but he's going to be there. He'll be up in the press box watching this game. Any of the players that want to stick around and stay with this Virginia Tech program, they're going to be playing hard on Saturday because the new boss is watching. And this is just too many points to lay with Virginia. Virginia's in a spot here where they need to win. And how often do you see teams sometimes when all they got to do is win and they're in, they play not to lose instead of playing to win? And that's my fear here. I think Virginia Tech takes this right down to the wire. They've got nothing to lose in this game, so they can take some chances. 4th and short, let's go for it. I'll take the Hokies, and maybe they can pokey the old Virginia Cavaliers out of the ACC championship. Take Virginia Tech plus the points. And sitting at 9.5, Kelly, I would wait till Saturday till the public gets involved, because if we lose the half a point to 9, what are we losing? But if we gain that half a point to 10, we're gaining a lot.
All right. That is some basic key number knowledge for you there in college football. VR, speaking of key numbers, this team is sitting there on 10, and I have no idea why you're taking this team. I am completely flabbergasted. I understand we're betting numbers, not teams. This team does not have a new head coach yet waiting in the wings. There's been some controversy. There's been lots of chatter yet. No pen to paper. Tell me why you think LSU can win this game outright.
And I'll say between my dog and my best bet, like they're almost always the same for me. Like, unless I say like I didn't bet this one, I bet that one. Just keep that in mind because I know like in the NFL, like my dogs have done great. The best bets haven't done that good. I think I'm like 5-7, but 9-2 with the dogs. But overall, like it's profitable to me. Like they're both. I weigh them kind of the same. I know you put the word best bet in front of it, but unless it, like I say, this is like a 4% and that's a 3%, that would make the difference. And in college football, that it will be the case because I actually changed it. I had another dog, but I went here because the dog is now the best bet. We'll get to that next. Here's why I like LSU, Kel, in this spot. There's a lot of recency bias around this. Number one, you have Oklahoma coming off big road wins. All right. They beat Tennessee as dogs. Then they go to Alabama on extra week rest. They beat Alabama as touchdown dogs outright. Now they come home where if you look, they've played well. They've won 4 or 5 games, but they only covered one of those. So the books have done a really good job of pricing it. So it's been tough to make money off of Oklahoma, even though they've won 8 of 10 games. If you bet them throughout the year, I think with the VIG, I don't even think you're profitable. And why I like the LSU side is because I think they're a little bit undervalued. Here's what I mean. They're a 6-4 team, and they had a rough go of it in their last game against an Arkansas team. But as we touched on with Marco, who had Arkansas was a legit 2-win football team. And LSU, believe it or not, power rating wise, is still in my top 25. Oklahoma is ranked higher than they should be. Right now in the playoff rankings, they're number 8. Okay. I have them at number 16. So I have them a lot further back. And like I said, I have LSU in my top 25. Here's why. LSU had a top 15 toughest strength of schedule. And with that tough strength of schedule, they have a top 15 defense. If you have a top 15 team defense and you're giving me double digits, I think they could stay in the game, especially since Oklahoma's strength is their defense. Like it's not the offensive side of the ball. They're barely a top 35 offense in efficiency. Now, granted, they also had a really tough strength of schedule, top 10. But they are facing a legit defense once again this week. So I don't think Oklahoma is going to have that easy of a time putting up points. Like you saw against Alabama, they put up 23. Against Tennessee, they put up 33. Against Mississippi, 26. If they put in the 20s, I think LSU could cover. Can they win outright? Again, I don't know. I felt that way about UCLA also. I don't know. And they got it done. If I'm betting a dog, it's because I do think they could keep it close enough. So will I sprinkle Oklahoma? Sure. Probably for 5% of my bet, maybe 10 at the most, because we're running hot in college football. But yeah, I'm going to go with LSU. Like I said, I think power rating wise, we have an advantage. And I think even with Oklahoma back at home, I don't see them having that dominance where they've covered games there. So I'll take the points with LSU and hope they could keep it within 10.
All right. And another team that everybody's going to tell you has quit on their season, but I told you last week they have not. Oklahoma State plus 410 was so close. They were up 14-0 in the bounce house and gave up 17 unanswered. And we cashed the over 2 touchdowns so easily. Now here they are at home, once again, getting over 2 touchdowns. The Cyclones, sure, they beat up on KU last week. Sure, they beat K-State in Dublin. But this Cyclones team, 2-4-1 against the spread in their last 7 games as a favorite. This is the most points they've been asked to lay since week 3 against Arkansas State. Oklahoma State has not quit on their season. I told you guys that last week, and I'm telling you guys this week. They still want to get an FBS win. They still want to play hard. And frankly, this is the best the team's looked all season long. By the way, the home team has won each of the last 4 meetings in this series. 4 of the last 5 have stayed under the total, which bodes well for that double-digit dog that is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We're running it back for a second straight week. All right, Marco, what else are we going to run back? The Deli? I certainly hope so, because the Deli has been absolutely crushing 37-22 on the season. Who is your trap game for this week?
Yeah, Kelly, and being the last week of the regular season, obviously you don't got a lot of sandwich spots because teams aren't playing next week, but we do have some trap situations. And I think we got a big one here with Jacksonville State in Western Kentucky. Now, both teams sit at 6-1 in a 3-way tie atop Conference USA. So obviously nobody's going to be looking past either team. But here's where the problem comes in. You had Western Kentucky last week played LSU. Now, they went to LSU, and regardless of LSU having a bad year this year, that is a huge game for Western Kentucky. What did they do as a 24.5-point underdog? They only lost by 3, 13-10, gut-wrenching loss for them. You also got to wonder what in the world the Western Kentucky athletic director was doing, scheduling a game like that this late in the season. Oh, wait, I know why. I have 1.8 million reasons why. That's what they were paid to go almost beat LSU last week. But here's the problem. Now they got to come off that gut-wrenching loss. They made a big step up in class, obviously playing an SEC school, more physical team. But even though they almost beat them, how much did it take out of the tank? Now they got to come back and play a Jacksonville State team. You know what Jacksonville State does? They run the football down your throat. They're going to run the football at them 45-plus times. When you just played a more physical team the week before, do you want to play a team that's going to come at you 45-plus times the next week and is averaging over 260 yards per game on the ground? Jacksonville State's averaging 38 points per game at home this season. It's senior day. You've got conference title on the line. Yeah, I'm going to take the home team here. Give me Jacksonville State, 34-27. That's my trap game going against the Western Kentucky team.
Okay, it is time for best bets. And I don't know if I'm really supposed to tell the family secrets and what goes on prior to hitting that record button, but VR would not stop talking about how much he loved this play. So take that for what it's worth. VR, does that mean you're going to give it to your clients, or you just love it as a show? Like, please elaborate, because you said love like a lot of times.
Here's what I did, Cal. I gave it to my last week. I lost my 5% in college football. Okay. I had a losing week in college football, slightly losing week. So I've won 10 of the 13 weeks, or 11 of the 14, whatever it is. I'm up over 100 units. Now, I don't want my job is to help manage risk for my subscribers as best as possible. So I don't want them going crazy. But this week I have a play that warrants that kind of bet. And I placed it. I fired it. I sent out a 4% to my subscribers. And then I sent out a 1% on the money line today. So it equals like 5%, but not a 5% play in theory. Okay. But I will have 5% worth of risk, put it that way, not full 5% of my bankroll. I'm not suicidal. But a rating wise. And here's the bottom line. It'll be, I say, like, you should never put too much stock in any one result, any one game, any one fight. We overreact. So I don't want this game to be the determining factor, but I think it'll play out that way. And here's what I mean. I've been talking about how Texas A&M is an overranked, overvalued team. They are not the number 3 best college football team in the country. In fact, that's Notre Dame. It's not them. It's Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's right behind Indiana, who's right behind Ohio State. That's the bottom line, power rating wise. A&M, top 15 at best. Here's the problem. Texas is a top 10, and the wrong team's favored in this game. You have Texas with the 7th toughest strength of schedule compared to the number 15 for Texas A&M. So they had a 2x tougher strength of schedule. And yet they have the 11th most efficient defense versus the number 27th most efficient defense. And even though the A&M offense is a couple slots, just a few slots above them in offensive efficiency, it's because they've had a 2x easier schedule than Texas. That's it. Bottom line, wrong team is favored. And for me, that like warrants that kind of bet, regardless of outcome. These are the kind of bets where I feel comfortable, kick my feet up. I know I got the best of it. And the fact that I got my subscribers down at +3 with a little juice, and now there's 2s out there, tells me the market's starting to agree with me. That's why I sent it out at +110 today with the instructions at +101 or better. It's a bet, because if you're giving me +101 on a coin flip, I'm going to take it. And this is no worse than a coin flip. There's absolutely no reason that Texas should be an underdog. You could argue maybe they shouldn't be a favorite, but they shouldn't be an underdog. And that tells me at worst, they're a coin flip. So if you're going to give me +3, +2.5, +2, or +1.5 on a coin flip, I'm taking it. You're giving me +101, 105, 110, 120, I'm taking it. And the fact that Texas A&M is favored doesn't surprise me, because it's based on the rankings, which have allowed us to win over 100 units so far this year in college football. So Saturday, talk before the game in the comments. Let me know why I'm wrong, because when Texas beats Texas A&M, I don't want to hear I have anything personal about Texas A&M. I could care less. It just happens they're not the 3rd best team in the country.
Touche. All right, Marco D'Angelo, before you give us your best bet, let us know what's going on over at WagerTalk.com.
Oh, we've got a plethora of offers this week over at WagerTalk. So head over to check them all out. 2 of the more popular ones, well, 3. We still have Weekend Warrior. $49. You can pick up your favorite capper Saturday and Sunday, get all their football. Why spend $49, though, for 2 days when this week you can get 7 days with our Thanksgiving special? Just $67 will get you 7 days this week. That is the best deal going. If you want to lock in your favorite capper for the entire bowl season, you can pick up the final week of the regular season, pick up the championship conference games next week, and all of the bowls for $179. Best deal, take that 7-day for $67, because you're not only going to get football for 7 days, you're going to get basketball, college and pro, you're going to get hockey, everything that's going on. If you have a capper that does some of the other sports, tennis, so forth, soccer, whatever, you get anything that happens from that capper in the next 7 days, including those 5% plays that sell for $35 by themselves, And speaking of 5% plays, yeah, I've got one going this week, and we have been on a roll. We hit our 5% last week with TCU outright winner as an underdog. Now 38-16 since February of 2024. $67 gets you 7 days. My best bet this week, Kelly, we're going to a former Pac-12 matchup. It's now in the Big Ten, and it's Washington and Oregon. Last week, we had a play on Oregon against USC, and, that was pretty simple. Why? Well, because Oregon was at home, and Oregon was playing defense in USC that I felt wouldn't be able to stop Oregon. Now, the difference this week, well, Oregon's on the road, and they're playing a team that does play defense in Washington. Washington has held 7 of their 11 opponents to 21 or fewer points this year. Only no one has scored over 25 points on them this year. Washington's not going to be intimidated by Oregon. As I alluded to, these two former Pac-12 teams know each other well. They've played 4 times since 2022, and 3 of the 4 games have been decided by 3 points. Washington's already bowl eligible, so there's no pressure on them. Oregon, yeah, they're trying to secure their spot in the big playoff championship playoff format, and looking at this one, I think the pressure's all on them. I think Washington's the team that can take the chances at home, and I don't think this Oregon team is the same team on the road. Yeah, they went into Penn State and beat Penn State earlier this year. The game went to overtime. What did Penn State do since then? Well, we know what happened to them. They had that horrible losing streak and fired James Franklin. They went on the road to Iowa. What happened there? They escaped with a 2-point victory. The only teams that they handled on the road were Northwestern and Rutgers, and those are not good teams. I'm going to go ahead. It's senior day. Home crowd goes home happy. I'm calling it Washington 27-24.
Yeah, that is going to probably be one of the legs of my 3-team moneyline parlay. Got it right here. Already circled, and I just wrote Marco in parentheses. Marco's been doing very well in college football, and I love when we agree. A game that you guys probably aren't going to agree with me on here, and I don't really care. And it was tough for me to find a best bet because, well, I was celebrating my birthday yesterday, and we had a Thanksgiving show. By the way, if you haven't caught the Thanksgiving show, it is up on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. The NFL show for Sunday and Monday will be up as well. Kansas State minus 17.5. Here's the reality. Kansas State should have probably won that game in Salt Lake City last week. And if that was the case, I would not have been on them here. And they had a heartbreaking loss, but they still need 1 game to become bowl eligible. Do these kids really care about going to a Liberty Bowl or another game in Texas? I sure as hell don't. But the reality is after that emotional press conference with Chris Kleiman, many players spoke out and said, we still want to play for this team. We still care. I got another text from a buddy who's, we'll call him a beat writer, if you will, for Kansas State. And he said they are effing pissed. And I don't know if I've ever heard him use language like that when texting me prior. So those are the types of, we'll call it insight, that I want to know when I'm laying this many points with the team. You've got Colorado on the flip side. Coach Prime kind of joked in his presser, oh, yeah, we want to play spoiler. Do they? They don't look like they want to play at all. In fact, his son is now a starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and I feel like he's got both feet out the door. Look for K-State to win big on Saturday. I'll do a Marco-ism here. I'm going to call it 44-10. Let's bring back in the guys, and as I already alluded to, oh, Marco, go ahead.
Kelly, I want to Kansas State give you a present for your birthday. Hopefully they give you that. But I want to tell listeners, yeah, it's a day late, but get into the comment section like you did for me. Tell Kelly, all caps.
Happy birthday.
Give Kelly some love. Happy birthday, Kelly.
Thank you, guys.
Dude, I'm still a little bit confused for that $67 deal, Marco. I don't know if I was okay. No one ran that by me. But I guess that's an IQ test. If they're not jumping on board for $67 with me, that's the IQ test this week, bro.
I can't with you guys. Marco's grandchild finally explained to him what 6'7" means, and now he wants to use it in all of our sales promo to boost the algorithm. But like you said, guys, jump in the comments. Agree with us, disagree with us. Want to tell me that you hate me, want to tell me that you love me. I don't care. But we appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. If you guys are looking for that NFL show, you guys know where you can catch it right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, Mega Show. And also, if you missed it, that Thanksgiving special is up as well.
Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo here for WagerTalk TV with Marco's Deli. Another edition as we're looking to keep things rolling. Finally had a losing week last week here on Marco's Deli. We went 2-3 for the week. That's now 8 winning weeks, 3 losing weeks on the season, and 1 break even, bringing the season total here on Marco's Deli to 37-22. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And let's see if we can deliver some tasty treats from the deli for you this week. Let's get things started. Don't forget, guys, give us that thumbs up if you like the video. It really helps the channel out. Share it with your friends. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, where you're watching from, and what is your favorite side dish or leftover tradition with your Thanksgiving. I know mine, Fridays after Thanksgiving, I love the turkey sandwiches, watching all the football games, but that's another story. Let's get to some winners. And we're going to start with California at SMU. Now, SMU needs a win to have a shot to return to the ACC championship game, but you're paying a high price to back SMU in this must-win spot. 2 weeks ago, SMU was on the road, -11 to Boston College, who's 0-7 in the conference, and Cal was 3-4. How could they have been -11 to Boston College, and now they're making you pay a price of 13.5 against California, who's a better team? California's 3-4 in conference play. Throw in that SMU's got to travel to California. This line is a total overreaction because California lost last week 31-10 to Stanford. But even though that was a rivalry game, you got to feel that Cal was going to be flat coming off that Louisville game the game before. They were an 18-point dog and went to Louisville and pulled off the upset. Last home game for Cal, they get to play spoiler. I'm going to take Cal plus the 13.5 for play number 1. Play number 2 this week on the Deli, we're going to take a look at South Carolina and Clemson. What a disaster of a year it's been for Clemson. And I'm looking to fade them here in the final game of the regular season. It's 6-5. Clemson is already bowl eligible. But let's be honest. How excited could they be about going to just a mediocre bowl game after they played in the national championship playoffs last year? And they started this year in the top 10. This has been a disappointing season. Now, speaking of disappointing, in South Carolina, they're disappointing too, is they're not going to be going bowling. So this actually becomes their bowl game. They get a chance to beat in-state rival. Now, even though South Carolina has a losing record, if you look at their schedule, they played a much tougher schedule. And give South Carolina credit. Last week, in an absolute flat spot, they could have melded in coming in off of that Texas A&M game. Not only was that a gut-wrenching loss when they blew that 30-3 lead at halftime to lose 31-30, but it also ended any chance they had to become bowl eligible. Yet they still showed up last week, even with this big game on deck. It was a huge sandwich spot. That shows me this team hasn't quit on the season, and playing their last home game against in-state rival Clemson, I think they show up today. I think they get the win in front of the home crowd. I'll lay the 2.5 with South Carolina. Play number 3, Mississippi State playing Ole Miss. Now, this one here has got a lot of stuff that we're going to unpack. We're going to start with, it's really the perfect storm here. You got Ole Miss at 10-1, has all the pressure of the national championship on their shoulders. Oftentimes, teams in this spot play not to lose instead of playing to win. That's dangerous when you're laying points, especially on the road. At 5-6, Mississippi State has something to play for other than the obvious, which is beating their arch rival, Mississippi, in the Egg Bowl. They're 5-6, so they need a win to become bowl eligible. Home dog in a rivalry game, that's always going to have me looking there, especially when the road team has so much at stake. You would love nothing better than to stick it to your rival, your big brother. But then here's the sidebar. You've got the Lane Kiffin distraction. Personally, I don't feel coaches should be allowed to interview or accept any head coaching jobs until their team's season is over. And I mean completely over. If they're going to a playoff game, once they're eliminated, then they can talk to other teams. Now, I realize that teams don't want to wait and they want to talk to coaches because they want to get ahead of the transfer portal. Well, that's up to the NCAA. They need to move the date for the transfer portal opening to after the national championship game. That solves all the problems. But here's the thing. It's a distraction for the Mississippi players. Is he staying? Is he leaving? Well, the fact that Ole Miss has made an announcement that they're going to have an announcement after this game, they'll have an update on Saturday, tells me everything I need to know. He's not staying. And that is a huge distraction. If he was staying, they would have made the announcement before this game. You would have wanted to have your team pumped up, not distracted. I am going to go ahead and take Mississippi State plus the points to take this one right down to the wire and give Mississippi all they can handle. Give me the 7 points with Mississippi State as play number 3. Now, before we get to the final 2 plays on this week's show, got a few things of business loose ends we got to tie up. As you know, every week at WagerTalk, you can get that Weekend Warrior. That's all the football Saturday and Sunday for $49, college and pro. Guys, there's football every day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Why not get 7 days? Not only of football, but basketball, college, pro, hockey. You get everything. We've got a Thanksgiving special this week, just $67. That's right, 67 gets you 7 days of all access service. And guys, we have been absolutely rolling. Over the last 27 days, 41-21 with all of my plays. That's a net profit of $5,264 for our clients. Our 5% plays, and we got one of them going this week, are now 38-16 since February of 2024 after we cashed our 5% with TCU. In my 4% and higher plays in college football this year, we are a remarkable 19-6. Don't miss out. Grab a 7-day Thanksgiving special. Get 7 days, all access for just $67. All right, guys. And don't forget, give us that thumbs up. It really helps the channel out watching this video. And let's go to play number 4. Play number 4 is Cincinnati plus 3.5 at TCU. Now, last week, we were on TCU big because they were playing spoiler to in-state rival Houston, who was still in the running for the Big 12 championship game. That was a very satisfying win for TCU. So I don't see the same intensity that put us on the TCU side last week this week. TCU quarterback Josh Hoover continues to throw interceptions, and it almost cost us the game last week. He threw 3 more interceptions, and that's now 7 in the last 3 games. Both of these teams are already bowl eligible, so there's really no extra motivation there other than the fact Cincinnati comes in here on a 3-game losing streak and really doesn't want to head into their bowl game on a 4-game losing streak. And you know what? Prior to that 3-game losing streak, Cincinnati had won 7 in a row. And if you look at those last 3 losses, 2 of them were to Utah and BYU. two of the three best teams in the Big 12. They also have something in common. Both BYU and Utah are big physical teams. Guess what? That's the polar opposite of TCU. They're a finesse team that likes to go up and down the field. I think Cincinnati dominates this game. And I think you're going to see a lot of scoring in this game. But I think at the end, it's going to be Cincinnati coming out on top in this one. Give me Cincinnati and the 3.5 points for play number 4. Our fifth and final play this week on Marco's Deli, we're going to take a look at, oh boy, hold your nose, guys, Tennessee plus 6.5 against Jacksonville. Now, before you start barraging me with comments about how can we bet Tennessee, you got to trust the process. And here it is. Jacksonville's playing their 4th road game in 5 weeks. Not to mention before their bye week, they had to fly to London. That was technically a home game, but they played it in London. That is a lot of travel for this team in a short period of time. They won last week in Arizona. Yeah, we came up short a half a point going with Arizona. But Jacoby Brissett, he threw for 271 yards in that game, connecting on 34 of 50 passes. Tennessee's Cam Ward, I know he's had a rough rookie season, but he has been improving. Only 1 turnover in the last 3 games. And against one of the best defenses in the league last week, Seattle, he had a clean game, no turnovers. He went 28 of 42 for 232 yards. But here's where this game gets good. You want to talk about a sandwich spot. Look at who Jacksonville, after all of those road games and another road game this week, look who they play next week. Indianapolis. Yeah, that game will be at home, and it's against the division leader. I just don't see them taking Tennessee seriously. I think Tennessee is a live dog here. I'm going to take Tennessee plus the 6.5. And the fact that this thing is under the 7 and it's been staying there tells you that there is support for the Tennessee side. Let's go ahead and make it Tennessee plus 6.5 for the final play. That's it for this week's Marco's Deli. I hope you enjoyed the show. I always enjoy bringing you these games. You guys are like a family. We get together every week and talk about these games. I love sharing information with you. I hope you are enjoying it, using the information, making some money. And to you and your family, hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be back next week with more plays here on Marco's Deli. Good luck this week, guys. Let's cash some tickets.
Welcome to our Thanksgiving TNA. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the WagerTalk College Football Trends and Angles Report for the week of Thanksgiving. Before I get started, I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and I'd like to wish you and your families a very safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Well, we're down to the final week of the regular season, and my final regular college football TNA segment. I will be doing some bowl TNA, so stay tuned here. Make sure you're checking out my Twitter at CalSportsLV and TikTok as well. We're going to start this segment with teams that are 5-6, trying to get a 6th win and make it to a bowl. We're going to look at totals for week 12, and I'm going to finish it off with 5 super college football systems for this weekend. Well, when you're practicing as a college football player in August, every team in college football, their goal is to get to 6 wins and get to a bowl. Well, we're now into the final week. So we're going to break down what teams have done that have exactly 5 wins and exactly 6 losses playing the final week of the regular season. I went back since 2019 and also back to 2014. Let's take a look at that chart. The top left quadrant, you see the black ATS. Those are ATS numbers. In the middle, you see the headings as a home favorite, home dog, away favorite, away dog. Over to the right, the top right, those are ATS teams that are off a win and off a loss. So if you're off a win, that means you were 5-5, you got to 6-5. If you're off a loss, that means You were 5-5, and now you're 5-6. So let's break it down. Let's take a look since 2019, the closest sample size. And this doesn't include the 2020 season because that was COVID and they had weird game numbers that they played. Some teams played a lot of games, some teams played none. But does this surprise you? It doesn't surprise me at all. When you're 5-6 and you have to win to get to a bowl, you have extreme pressure on you. You're obviously not a very good team because you have a losing record going into it. So a losing record plus this pressure shows us these ATS results. Looking back for the last 5 years, home favorites that are 5-6, 37.5%. Home dogs, 39.1%. Away favorites, 38.5%. And the only profitable situation is if you're 5-6 and now you're an away dog this week, you have actually covered 62.5%. And to me, again, another point that makes sense because when you're at home and playing in front of your friends and playing in front of your family and everyone's saying, all you guys got to do is win this game and you'll get to a bowl, all of that stuff adds up. When you're an away underdog, you don't have expectations. You are on the road staying at a hotel. You have your business plan in place to pregame, go to the game, play the game, and then head home. So again, to me, makes 100% that favorites have struggled and away dogs have done well. Let's take a look over to the right and see both of these go back all the way to 2014 to give us more of a sample size. Take a look at the home favorite, though, off a win. That's pretty surprising. So you're slightly above 50%. So what you want to look for are 5-6 teams that are off a loss. As a home favorite, they're only 40.6%. And look at a home dog, 35.7%. So that's something to circle, guys, and take a look. 5-6 teams at home off a loss are basically 38% against the spread. And if you're off a loss and on the road, you see positives for both away favorites and away dogs. Below are the totals. Look at all those brown numbers. If you're 5-6 at a home favorite, it doesn't matter if you're off a win, off a loss since 2019, since 2014, it's been an underplay. Look on the very bottom. If you're an away dog at 5-6, it has been an underplay. If you've been a home dog, split half and half. And if you've been an away favorite at 5-6, doesn't happen very much. 3 positives to the over and 1 8-8 record off a loss, which is 50%. Check them out. Mark those 5-6 teams. You'll be glad you did. Well, late in the year, offenses get better, defenses wear down, and we're to the final game of the regular season. Perhaps we're going to try some trick plays. So let's look at totals. Game number 12. That's it. Doesn't matter your record. Doesn't matter the line. If you blindly bet every over-under in game number 12 since 2021, you are 150 and 107, 58.4% to the over. Amazing number. If you're an away dog with more than 6 wins, that number goes to 63.3%. And if you're an away dog with 9 or more wins, like Vanderbilt, those teams have gone 78% over in game number 12. One other split I want to share with you. When you're looking at all the game number 12s, totals under 43 are 41% to the over, 59% to the under, and totals of 44 or more, 137 and 89, 61%. So game 12 totals are strong to the over, but make sure you cross off all those totals under 43, and you'll find yourself in a positive situation of almost 61% to the over on those games. Guys, we really don't need to talk about specials this week because the tradition continues. About 5 or 6 years ago, we started offering a 7-day all access for Thanksgiving for $69. Well, guess what? We had to make it a little bit better. $67 gets you 7 days of all access, any capper on the site. It doesn't matter how many cappers you buy. And I'll tell you what, if you're interested in following me through my Red Hot Bowl season, you can go and buy 3 $67 week packages, and they stack one on top of each other. So you're basically getting 3 weeks for $67 per week. Check it out, my homepage, wt.buzz/RM. I am thankful for you guys viewing these videos all year, and I'd like to ask you a favor as well. Hit that like button. Let's finish strong. Everyone, please hit the like button and make sure you're subscribing to WagerTalk TV. Over 300,000 people do. You should be part of this ever-growing group. Well, let's get to our super systems for this week. First off, a team was an away favorite, and they lost the game by 34 more points. Now they're playing a conference game. The line is less than 26. And we're after week 3 of the season. That team would be West Virginia. That team would be East Carolina. Those teams off that loss, 30 wins and 6 losses. East Carolina in an 83.3% ATS situation this week. Now, how about massive home dogs? Home dogs of 20 points or more. Off an away game, and they're off a bye. They're playing an opponent off a home game, and the win percentage for that team, like West Virginia, is under 50%. So we have a losing team, off a road game, off a bye, a massive home dog against a team off a home game. Those teams like West Virginia are 8-31, 20.5% against the spread. I mentioned this one a few weeks ago, and it cashed. It's pretty simple, guys. You have a team that's a favorite or a dog up to plus 13. They're on the road. They're off a loss as a favorite, but they rushed for over 200 yards. So which teams this week? An away dog up to plus 13. Off a loss as a favorite that rushed for 200 yards. 2 teams apply, Army and UTEP. And those teams, 46 and 17 against the spread, 73%. System number 4. We're going to look at low totals, under 44. Game number 12, and the lines between the 12s, and their previous game went over the total. So again, we already know game 12, low totals, are going to be an underplay. So if we're in a competitive game between the 12, so no favorites of more than 12, no dogs of more than 12, and their last game went over the total, over-under record, 13 overs, 30 unders. That is 70% to the under. This applies to Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota, Wisconsin, to the under. And finally, we mentioned this probably about 6 or 7 weeks ago. Highest elevation in college football, Wyoming, over 7,000 feet. We know Denver, mile high, that's 5,200 feet. So 7,000 feet is a significant elevation. Teams that go to Wyoming and don't have a bye and are not a massive favorite. So they could be an underdog or a favorite up to minus 20. Those teams have gone 19-43, 31% against the spread. Who played at Wyoming last week? That would be the Nevada Wolfpack. Again, 19-43 against the spread. So system 1, 83% on East Carolina. System 2, 79.5% fade West Virginia. 73% ATS systems play on Army and UTEP. Low totals, lines between the 12, play the under Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota, Wisconsin. And teams off a road game at Wyoming with no bye, 30.6% against the spread. That says to fade Nevada. Again, thank you so much for tuning in this entire college football season. I can't believe we're on the final week of the regular season. Stay tuned for any conference championship TNA and my bowl TNA. Thank you so much. Hit that like button on your way out. And again, deepest wishes for you and your family to have a happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday.
NFL Week 13, sans the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games. Those are in another video if you guys missed that over on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. But we're still going to go over Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. We've got the Steam Report from VR. We've got the Deli from Marco. Those barking dogs keep on cashing outright, and that is the name of the game. My best bets, not so much. Marco and VR, though, they've been making you guys money all season long. Right up next here on Bet On It. Happy Thanksgiving. That is a different video, as I alluded to, but I'm assuming you guys are watching this as your regularly scheduled program. Make sure you guys spend some time with your friends and family, you damn degenerates. I will not be. I will be watching NFL and probably on End Zone Live with the Prez, hating my life as he goes on some crazy rant. So we'll see you guys over there. Last call on Saturday with me in VR. If you guys are looking for college football, that is a different video as well. But this is the 13th week of the NFL season. Marco D'Angelo, Gianni Corrales, and we're going to get right in to Bet On It with Sunday Night Football. My Denver Broncos, 6.5-point road favorites at the Washington Commanders, total 43.5. VR, we talk a lot about fraudulent teams here on Bet On It. Marco gave out one for Black Friday. Whoopsie. That being said, are the Denver Broncos fraudulent? I kind of think they might be.
Well, here's the thing. They're winning. They got only 2 losses, Kel. They're a 9-2 football team. But they're not getting it done by margin. And that's the difference. And when you're winning by 7-8 straight games and 6 of those are by 3 or 4 points or less, it could have gone the other way for you. And when you dig into the data, there's teams that have a worse record that would be favored over them. And what I mean by that is like Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston. Those are teams that are 6-5, 7-4 Detroit, 7-4 Buffalo. They would all be favored over a 9-2 Denver. And the reason for it is Denver's had a very easy strength of schedule. In fact, only 4 teams in all of the NFL have had an easier strength of schedule than Denver. And yet, even with that easy strength of schedule, they don't even have a top 20 offense in efficiency. They're in the bottom 10 offensively. It's the defensive side of the ball that's impressive for Denver, where they're top 5. But once again, it's with one of the easiest schedules in all of the NFL. That's why how much, stock can you really put even in that defense? Now, on the flip side, you look at Washington. They've had a much tougher strength of schedule than Denver has. Nothing to really brag about. Not impressive. I mean, 22nd offense, barely bottom 5 defensively. So statistically, again, nothing sexy about Washington. So it isn't really where I'm saying I have a bet on Washington. Instead, I'm looking at a fade of Denver. And I haven't gotten into the window with this. It's a disclaimer. It's the TV game I was given. And it's just, if I had to bet it, I just think that the line's a little bit too high, because you look at the splits. Denver's been a powerhouse at home where they haven't lost a single game. They're only 3-2 on the road. You look at Washington, they've won 2x the amount of home games as they have on the road. So I like the split there. I like the fact that Denver's coming off a huge divisional win against Kansas City after beating the Raiders, another divisional win. But let's not forget, they were 8.5-point favorites against the Raiders. And that's what happens to a team that's not elite. They get caught looking ahead. And you saw what happened. They only beat the Raiders by 3 points. Why? Because they had Kansas City on deck. That's the what you would expect from a team that isn't dominant. And at 9-2, you should be dominant. And that's just not what Denver is. So back to this game, that's why I wouldn't be comfortable laying a touchdown on the road, because you got to be dominant to do that. You have to have offense to do that, because you're talking about winning by double digits. And with Washington not having covered 6 straight games, 7 straight games now, I think that the market's looking at a correction. They're getting a little more points than they should. Denver's giving more points than they should. We're getting a little bit of line value, best you could ever hope for. Give me Washington plus the points.
Yeah, I considered that side as well. Maybe at least in a couple of my contest picks. Marco, I'm curious to see who you like on Monday Night Football. The New York Giants, 7.5-point underdogs at New England. Is New England a fraudulent team?
I don't think so, Kelly. And, the New York Giants, let's, it's Thanksgiving. What are you going to be thankful for? Let's be thankful for Jameis Winston, because he's going to entertain us for at least a couple games every year. And he did last Sunday. I don't know if you saw the touchdown pass he caught in the move he made to get into the end zone. That was fun. But the knee-jerk reaction, if you look at the Giants after what they did last week, going to Detroit, 14-point underdogs, they had that game won. Detroit had to hit a long field goal at the end of the game to send it to overtime, and then they won it in overtime. We also see that the Lions, did they get caught looking ahead last week? And I'm kicking myself because that was a big sandwich spot. But I thought coming off of a loss, they would be better focused. But face it, they came off a Sunday Night Football game against Philadelphia the week before, and they had that game on Thanksgiving Day with Green Bay. So the Giants win or narrow loss looks better than it actually was. And what do I tell you? Teams that have a big effort and come up just short, that is the poster child for lose the same game twice. And we've got New England that's coming home here. Did they look past Cincinnati last week? Possibly. There was a lot of buzz that Joe Burrow was going to play last week, and then he didn't. Did they overlook them? Were they looking ahead to Monday Night Football? New England's not been on Monday Night Football for a while, since the days of since Tom Brady, before he went to Tampa Bay. They were a regular fixture on primetime games. This is a statement game for them. I think they were looking ahead last week, and I think you're going to see this team who is good on both sides of the football. Drake May, far and away the best second-year quarterback in the NFL this year. He has made the most progress, even over Caleb Williams in Chicago. The defense for New England is solid. I don't see the Giants being able to move the football this week against New England the way they did against Detroit. We know Detroit has their problems defensively. And for New England, they'll have no problem moving against this Giants defense. Let's go ahead, lay the points here with New England. I've got them winning by 11, 28-17.
All right, guys, this week you can get a free edition of the Gold Sheet. Right here is the website you want to go to. You guys are welcome. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Enjoy that 4 days with your family. But make sure you check out VR on Sunday with Ariel Epstein. He's going to give you the Steam report. Here on Wednesdays, though, we give you a little preview so that we can codify it come Sunday.
Yeah, a little taste, a little bit of the early action. Keep in mind, some of the biggest days ahead for sharps, with bettors home for the holidays, all from work, drinking, eating, standalone games on TV. Rest assured, a lot of money's being wagered, and money moves lines just like respect does. So the sharps know to stick around some of these lines will be knocked out of whack come game day, and they're there to pounce. So make sure you're there for last call and steam room as well. Now, let's look at some of the games that got hit early on. Start with 466, Tennessee plus 7.5 and 7. I'll talk about them a little bit later. 467, LA Rams -9, 9.5, and 10. And they went under 46.5, just hit once that opener. 470, Miami -5 and 5.5. 471, Atlanta. Look ahead, 1 got hit, then 2 got hit as well. Cleveland +7, juiced, +6.5, +6, +5.5. When it got down to 4.5, that's when you saw the San Francisco money start coming in. NFL lines are really tight. I thought you'd see some resistance prior to that, but it shows you a lot of steam on Cleveland. And the under, the look ahead was 40.5. You're now looking at 36. Limit bets all the way down at half-point increments. 476, Seattle -7 was the look ahead. You're now looking at double digits. Another one that they didn't go straight to teaser protection. Instead, they were getting limit bet hit up half-point increments. Much different situation. Finally, 480, LA -8.5 and 9. That's when you saw Raider money at 10. They took the 10 when it got there. So the books know if they get too heavy, they know where they could get some of that risk offloaded. If they go to 10 with LA Chargers, keep your eye on that number. And they also went under 43.5 look ahead, 42.5 and 41.5. So a lot of under money there. That's the steam report as of Wednesday morning.
All right,
happy
Mark.
Thanksgiving and enjoy the weekend too. Hope you make some money.
Yeah, that is the plan. We want to make some money, eat some food, and enjoy this feast week. Marco D'Angelo, by far our best segment as a whole, because I've been bringing down the averages in the best bet department. The Barking Dogs have been awesome. Last week's Barking Dogs, great once again. This week, got me a little nervous here because I'm considering using the other side of this one in Survivor.
Yeah, Kelly. And you know what, last week, and this is a good question for Ace. We talk about in the NFL, the old adage has been, if you pick the winner, you pick the point spread winner. I've been doing this a long, long time, guys, 46 years. I don't remember a Sunday in the NFL like last Sunday where there was as many teams win but not cover the spread.
Yeah.
The point spread came into play last week. And, I talked to, on Monday with, Chuck Esposito from Stations Casinos here in Vegas. And, we'll ask John Murray that same question. I don't remember it ever happening. And I think you're going to see a bit of an adjustment, from the books with the lines. So maybe there will be some value with some of these favorites this week, but this is one I don't think so, because is there a team in the NFL right now that the stock is any higher than the LA Rams? Everybody is in love with them. That is their Super Bowl team from the NFC, because we've seen the other candidates take steps backwards. Philadelphia losing last week. We saw Detroit lose some games recently. Nobody has taken that forefront. That is the Rams to lose. I think it's too much. Public perception has them. They've coming off 3 big wins in a row. You look at what they've done. Go back 3 weeks ago. They played the 49ers. That was a huge revenge game for them. It was a key division game. And if you remember, they lost that first meeting, that Thursday night game, when the 49ers were decimated with injuries, and somehow the 49ers beat them. That was a big game. Then 2 weeks ago, they played Seattle. That was a battle for first place. The two were tied. They got the win 21-19 in that game. It's a misleading final because Seattle actually outgained them 414 to 249. And then last week, where some people, and I was one of them, thought maybe that's where they come back to earth. Well, it was a Sunday night primetime game, and they showed up. They showed up in a big way. They demolished Tampa Bay 34-7. So now, is anybody going to want to step in front of them? No, and that's why you're seeing this line as high as it is and seeing it creep over the 10-point mark. John Q. Public watched that game Sunday night. They also watched the Monday night game and saw Carolina lose to San Francisco. And we've talked about this before. You've got, I call it the ABC theory. The public's going to look and see that Carolina just lost to San Francisco. They're also going to look and see the Rams just a couple of weeks ago beat San Francisco. So if the 49ers can beat Carolina and the Rams can beat San Francisco, this is a no-brainer, right? Carolina gets blown out. No, that's not the way it works in handicapping. Rams are feeling fat and sassy. They're traveling east to play a Carolina team that's going to be very easy to look past. They've got a division game against Arizona next week, then followed by 2 key NFC games against Detroit and Seattle. This is absolutely the flat spot on their card, their schedule, and you're laying an inflated number in a potential trap. I'm going to go ahead and take Carolina plus the points here. Rams get a score. As VR says, I don't know if they're going to be able to get the outright upset, but I will have just a little sprinkle. Remember when we gave you Carolina in a spot similar to this against the Green Bay Packers? And what happened? They pulled the victory out.
That's right. 12.5-point road underdogs. They sure did. All right. I'm going to be looking for a new survivor pick. VR, you like arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL. I don't know if they're the worst. Are they the worst in your power ratings?
Second worst. Second worst. Raiders are the worst. Raiders are the worst. They're the second worst. As the Tennessee Titans. But the point spread's the great equalizer. We know that. And that's why a team like Tennessee, that's 1-10 straight up, is 5-6 against the spread. Not that, you have one game below 500. So they do a really good job in the NFL of pricing these teams. We're even arguably the worst team in the NFL. If you've been fading them all year, unless you got down at good numbers, you've made very little money doing it. That's the bottom line. And here's the one thing I'm going to tell you about Tennessee. Again, there's not all that to defend when offensively and defensively, there's only 2 or 3 teams worse than you statistically. See, there are teams worse than them offensively and defensively, okay? With that said, they've had the number 1 toughest schedule. So teams that have had easier schedules have worse stats offensively and worse stats defensively that have had an easier go of it. This week, they're facing a defense in Jacksonville that's in the bottom 8 in the NFL. And even their offense is mid-tier. They're barely cracking top 16. So they're not going up against like a juggernaut in Jacksonville this week. And with Tennessee, they've shown a lot of effort. Look over the last 3 weeks. Yeah, they've lost those games all by 1 score. And they covered all 3 of those. That's a team that's giving you some effort down the stretch. And do they have something to play for over those last 3 games? Yes, they were home games. They haven't won at home yet this season. They want to get that monkey off their back. I think they're going to give us effort again, especially against a division opponent in Jacksonville, who's owned them of late. I mean, Jacksonville has won 5 of the last 6. But again, when you look at Jacksonville not winning by margin, only 1 week, that was against the Chargers. If you look over their last 5 wins, okay, only 1 time have they won by more than a score. So again, even when they're getting W's, they're not doing it with margin. And to cover a 7-point spread, that's what you need to do. This one I did send out to subscribers. I'm on Tennessee. We took them at a touchdown +7. I would buy it up, lay up to 125 at 6.5. But I think the public's going to bet it up for you anyway. You should be able to get some 7s on them game day.
Yeah, you mentioned there's going to be a ton of public getting involved this week.
No disrespect. They'll be chasing by Sunday what they lost Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
I don't know if they're going to lose Thursday, Friday, because guess what? It has been really chalky. Like
it has. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But it's the parlays, the teasers, the crazy shit. They could cash more tickets than they trash, but they find a way of losing money. That's the problem. Bad risk management.
Bingo. Bad risk management. That's one of the things we're trying to do here on bet on it. WagerTalk.com. We're trying to make you guys better betters. Hopefully this play helps you become a better better. As I mentioned, I had the Dallas Cowboys last week. They looked awful very early on, and then here come the Cowboys and let the Eagles puke all over themselves in the second half, and that's basically what the Colts did at Arrowhead last week. They blew an 11-point lead, 4 straight 3-and-outs, and Daniel Jones 8 of 18 for 83 yards in the second half. Did Daniel Jones turn into a pumpkin? Maybe. We're going to find out this weekend, but I do like the Houston Texans catching over a field goal in Indianapolis. CJ Stroud returning this week. If you guys remember, he did have that concussion against the Broncos, but whether it's Davis Mills or CJ Stroud, it doesn't matter. Davis Mills got Houston 3 straight wins, including that Thursday night home win over the Buffalo Bills. So this team has extra rest to prep for a series that they've won 3 straight in, and it's been very closely contested over the last 3 seasons. Since 2022, they had a tie, a game decided by 1, John Murray, games do land 1, 1 game decided by 2, Prez, games do land 2, and 1 game decided by the most important number in the NFL, that is 3 points. Only one of those has been decided by 4 points, which still gets us within the cover here with Houston. But I think Houston has the ability here to win the football game. Again, Indianapolis coming off that road overtime loss in Kansas City. Jonathan Taylor was held to just 58 rushing yards. I like this Houston defense. I think that they are going to come to play. So give me the +4.5 and give me a sprinkle on that money line. Marco D'Angelo, we've been sprinkling all season long in the Deli. 37-22 on the season. You and VR agree here. You're both going against my Denver Broncos.
Yeah, Kelly, and sorry for doubling up on a game, but it's in a different category. And remember, we lost 4 NFL games on Thursday and Friday, so we had to come up with it. And this is a play I really like. On paper, it looks ugly as hell to take Washington, but you've got to trust the process. And the process for me is, how many times do I tell you about bye weeks? Both teams are coming off a bye, but I always tell you, if you go into a bye on a winning note, and I think winning 8 in a row would qualify, it's a momentum stopper, I feel. And if you go into the bye week on a bad note, Washington's lost 6 in a row, you're going to use that time and make adjustments, make changes, fix what's wrong. That means I'm going to look at Washington in this game. Let's go back to Denver, though. Not only are they going into the bye, they went into the bye fat and sassy, not because they won 8 in a row, because the last game that they played was against Kansas City. And winning that game gave them an absolute stranglehold on the AFC West. They got a 2-game lead over the Chargers, who right now, are up and down. And the team that you still fear the most, even though they were in 3rd place, was the Kansas City Chiefs. You now have a 3.5-game lead. Talk about being fat and sassy and sitting around patting yourself on the back for 2 weeks and reading your press clippings. I am going to look for Washington at home in a primetime game. And what do I always tell you? Teams that are dismal on the season, and it's been a nightmare of a season for Washington because there were such high hopes in Washington year 2 with Jaden Daniels after his rookie campaign, the run that they made in the playoffs last year, to be sitting where they are. Why would they come to play? Well, what do I tell you? Teams that don't have anything to play for, what are the 2 times they're going to play? They're going to play a division game where they can play spoiler, or it's going to be a standalone primetime game. There's another part of trust the process. Everything adds up for me to take Washington plus the points. I'll take them. Don't be surprised if they win this game outright, Kelly. I'll have a little on a sprinkle as well for sure.
Ooh, all right. Maybe I need to start looking towards Washington if both of you guys like it. And if both of these guys like a play, it's done very well here on Bet On It. Not only the NFL edition, but the college football edition as well. They've also done really well on their best bets. VR, I'm going to let you go first. But let me know what's going on over at WagerTalk.com before you get into this week's best bet.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really excited about this weekend. Even being here as long as I have, there's a couple times of the year, Super Bowl, the first 4 days of March Madness, Thanksgiving weekend, because of all the action and just the nostalgia of growing up in it. And there's just so much betting value. I'll have my college football package up, my NFL package up. A 5%'s coming this week. I already gave you in college football 5% on bet on it. And yeah, college basketball throughout the week, NBA, and bowl games coming up ahead. It's just a really good time to jump on board. But again, over the next couple of days, we will be firing NFL and college football. Make sure you jump on board. Up over 100 units in college football, and doing well in NFL as well. Right now on the show, 22, 13, and 1 in the NFL, 60+%. I'll take it. And for my best bet, Kel, I got to do it. This I released to subscribers, and I did my job. This is what I get paid for. This is what they pay me for. I got them down on Cleveland +7, all right, over the 49ers. Why? Because I was very confident that line was going to drop. In fact, so confident that I told them at 6.5, buy the half a point up to -125, because I already had that real strong feeling we probably could have paid 130 for it because it was going to get down this low. I didn't think it would get down to as low as 4.5, which some shops it got to before it bounced back a little bit. And here's why. The market overreacted, and the wise guys overreacted as well to Sanders' first game. When he came in against Baltimore, 16 attempts, 4 completions, passer rating of 13.5, okay? So the market's going to overreact to what they saw last. They made the Raiders favored, all right? The worst team in the NFL. Not only did they make the Raiders favored, but myself and a lot of other so-called plus EV bettors pushed that line up on the Raiders, steaming them. And what happened? Sanders goes out there, 87.1 rating and 20 of 11 passing. Not bad. 1 interception, 1 touchdown. They get the job done. They win by 2 touchdowns as dogs. Usually, I would want to back off them here. You would think, okay, now there's going to be that overreaction. Not the case. Why? Because you have the San Francisco 49ers coming to town who just looked phenomenal on national TV on Monday night, shutting down Carolina, who, if you remember, Carolina was getting some money on Monday night. So there were bettors that had to sit through that, watching San Francisco getting that cover. When I look at the Niners, you look at their splits, they appear to be better on the road than at home. That doesn't make any sense at all. They should regress more towards the mean. Their home record should be better than their road record. Then I look at the splits for Cleveland. This is where I want to back them, right? At home, where they've won double the amount of games and lost less than they have on the road. I look at also Cleveland, tough strength of schedule, top 10 strength of schedule, tougher than San Francisco's, and have a top 15 defense. When I'm catching points at home, that's what I want. A defense that could keep me in the game. You look over the last 2 weeks, Cleveland continues to give us effort. In fact, over the last 3 weeks, they haven't been outscored by more than 1 score. I just think this is too many points for San Francisco, coming off back-to-back meaningful games, now going to Cleveland out of conference. I think they get caught here. Probably will squeeze out a field goal win, but don't be surprised if Cleveland catches them. Again, San Francisco, top 15 offense, top 15 defense, respectable strength of schedule, but starting to get a little bit too much hype. The narrative's starting to outpace their actual production. And when that's the case, I see value on the dog. So I'm going to take Cleveland still at this adjusted number from what we got down on as the best bet.
All right, Marco's been giving you guys team totals, and you guys have been complaining about it in the comments section. So guess what he's going to do this week? He's going to give you another team total. Marco, before you give out your team total, please let everybody know What is going on over at WagerTalk.com this week?
All right. Well, it's Thanksgiving week, and we got a Thanksgiving special for everybody. The Weekend Warrior is still available. You guys love that. It's our biggest selling product every weekend. And why not? You get your favorite handicappers, college and NFL football plays Saturday and Sunday. And if they have a Monday night play, you get it as well, all for $49. But this week, why do that? There's football every day. You got football Thursday through Monday, but not only football, you got all kinds of basketball, hockey, 7 days, this week only, 6-7. Just $67. You can get a 7-day subscription, all plays from your favorite handicapper, and that includes if they have any 5% plays. Those 5% plays sell for $35 themselves. That's half of the subscription. And this week, I've got a 5% play going. My 5% plays have been on a roll. We have gone with those plays 38-16 after last week's winner on TCU. So head on over to WagerTalk, jump on board. And not only are we winning in football, but over the last 27 days, 41-21 for our clients for a profit of over $5,200. And we're keep it rolling. And speaking of rolling, let's keep these team totals rolling. And it's been a simple formula that has worked. What I've done with these, and we're going for 4 in a row on these team totals, the recipe for success is this. We find a good offense that's coming off a loss, that's facing a team with a mediocre to bad defense. And this week, that team is the Buffalo Bills. They're coming off a loss on Thursday Night Football. They have a good offense, and they're facing my Pittsburgh Steelers that has been torched by good passing teams. Throw in Buffalo's had 3 extra days to prepare, gives them an added edge. Pittsburgh is supposed to have Aaron Rodgers back this week. That would make you think that Pittsburgh would be able to move the ball better than they did last week against Chicago. So if Pittsburgh is moving the football, that means Buffalo's got to keep moving the football to answer scores. So Buffalo won't take their foot off the gas. Buffalo, the offense has been their own worst enemy in the last couple losses. They've turned the ball over 9 times in the last 3 games, but they're not facing a tenacious defense this week. Last week, they faced Houston's defense, one of the better defenses in the NFL. Pittsburgh's is not. I see Buffalo getting 34 or more points in this one. I'm seeing a team total of 26.5. There's only one way I can go with this one, and it is Buffalo. Team total over. And if you're worried about weather conditions or whatever in Pittsburgh, this is Buffalo. There isn't worse weather conditions that a team ever plays in than in Buffalo. So don't worry about any cold weather, windy, or anything like that. It'll be okay. Let's take over. Team total for Buffalo.
All right. I've been absolutely getting my ass kicked on these best bets. So this week, I'm just going to try not to overthink it. We're just going to go with it. And we are going to bet against the worst power rated team in the league. I said last week, who wants to lay points with the Las Vegas Raiders? And the Raiders did what the Raiders do, and they sucked once again. Geno Smith sacked 10 times. The offensive line is beyond banged up. They're last in EPA per play, number 30th in success rate, number 29th in EPA per drop back, and last in EPA per rush attempt. Outside of Max Crosby, I think this Raiders team has shown 0 signs of being a competent football team, at least since the Bears game. That was about the time it looked like they mailed it in. But so what did they do after losing their 5th straight game last week as a 3.5-point home favorite? Oh, cool. They fired Chip Kelly and Bob Bicknell. Pete Carroll has lost 5 straight games for the first time since he was the head coach for the 1994 Jets. The Raiders have a 2-9 or worse start in consecutive seasons for just the 2nd time in franchise history. This team is down, and they are down bad, averaging 13 points per game against John Harbaugh's defense. The best part about the Los Angeles Chargers, they're coming off a bye and had lost at Jacksonville before then. They've now had time to fix some of those offensive line injuries. And I think getting that team ready to play a big time divisional game. Harbaugh, you know what he does in these divisional games? That's right. He puts his foot on the gas. And that's why I don't mind laying 9.5 here. I know VR says the spread is the great equalizer, but I do not see this Raiders team keeping this even remotely close. I think this is an absolute and utter boat race by the Chargers. I know I said I was going to use, thinking about using the Rams and Survivor. I'm using the Chargers in all of my Survivor plays this week. Give me the Chargers minus 9.5 as my best bet for NFL Week 13. Marco, VR, let's hope that I can turn that around. I think I'm 1-6 in my last 7
too
best
much
bets.
pressure on yourself.
That's why I said I'm not overthinking
that's
this
why
one.
I on the ratio label best bet.
I know, but the barking dogs have just, I'm looking for outright underdogs, and they just like to win outright. So now I'm just going to be a chalk eating weasel and see how that works out for me. Thank you to both of you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, everyone, with your friends and family. If you guys did miss those Thanksgiving games, they're going to be right here, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Of course, we got the mega show, college football, NFL. I think they're going to add the Thanksgiving games. I'm not sure.
I cannot believe it is the final week of the college football regular season. I cannot believe it is Thanksgiving, but thank you so much for taking time out of your week to tune in. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the WagerTalk NFL Trends and Angles Report, obviously for the week of Thanksgiving. Well, we're to the nitty-gritty of the NFL season, so I have a chart breaking down poor teams, mid-range teams, and good teams at the end of the season. I'm going to break down one of my trends step by step. A few of you have said, how do you find these trends? What do you have to do? We'll walk through the process. And then, as always, we're going to finish it off with 4 NFL super systems, including an 83% system that's applicable to 2 teams. Well, let's get right to it. You'll see on the chart, the top are NFL teams from game number 12 and later that have a win percentage, a straight up win percentage under 40. In the middle, you see teams with a win percentage of 40% or higher and under 60%. And on the bottom, we're looking at NFL teams with a win percentage of 60% and higher from game number 12 to game number 15. Now, all this data goes back since 2015. When they moved the extra point back, that's usually my starting chart to give us big enough sample sizes. I did not include games 16 and 17 because so many NFL teams rest their starters. If they're playoff teams, it's not true data. And yes, game 16 have been legitimate for the last few years. But when I go back to 2015, there are too many seasons there to sway that game number 16 data. So we just left it out. So we're going to be looking at the next 4 games to see if we have any patterns. Remember, guys, there's times we do these charts and we learn that there is no pattern, that we can't be swayed by what we think should happen. So let's take a look at the top. These are poor teams, teams with win percentages under 40%. Let's take a look at the home favorites. You see that home favorites for bad teams do poorly games 12 and 13, but late in the season, they do have some success. Home dogs. Well, home dogs games 12 through 15, 45% against the spread. And take a look at 12, 13, and 14, all those red numbers. If you are a crappy team, but you're still an away favorite, well, Vegas has it right. You're an away favorite for a reason. 57, 73, 75, and 50%. So away favorites with a win percentage under 40%, 18 and 10, 64.3% against the spread. And away dogs that have a losing record, pretty up and down, right around the 50% mark. In the middle, let's take a look at those teams from 40% to 60%. Take a look at those bottom totals, guys. 52% is a home favorite, under 40% is a home dog, under 40% as an away favorite, 45.3% as an away dog. So those teams in the mid-range, as a home favorite, they've been okay. But as a home dog, away favorite, and away dog, they have been fades. On the very bottom, we have teams with win percentage of 60% or higher. Take a look at the bottom totals. As a home favorite, they're right around 50% with the juice. As a home dog, winning teams as a home dog, 15-9, 62.5% against the spread. Good teams as an away favorite, 73-51, 59% against the spread. And the only negative, and that really is game 15, late in the year, those very good teams as an away dog. Again, take a look at that game 15 record, 4-12, 25% against the spread. So a couple things to take out of it. A crappy team late in the year, if you're an away favorite, there's a reason. And home teams with good records and away favorites with good records have been positives. Well, one of my systems that we're going to talk about are good teams, which we just talked about, but I want to go through the subset and how I get to a trend like this that I share with you here weekly on our TNA report. So let's say we go back and I'm looking at teams from game 12 and later with a win percentage of 60% or higher. That's it. No other parameters. Just game 12 and later, win percentage of 60% or higher. Those teams, 50.1% against the spread with over 2,000 game sample size. When I look at teams 70% or higher, it comes down to 48.2%. When I look at teams with a win percentage of 75% or higher, it comes down again, 46.9%. And from game 12 later, going all the way back to 1991, teams with a win percentage of 80% and higher late in the year are 198 and 261, 43.1% against the spread. So now I have a workable number with just two parameters: win percentage above 80, game number 12 and higher. So I'll look at the site. Well, that's interesting. When I pull out the home record, they're 120 and 126, so 49% against the spread. That means away and neutral teams late in the year, 78 and 135, 36.6% against the spread. Now, when I take those away and neutral teams and look at teams as a dog of 2.5 or higher, that number goes to 11 and 34, 24.4% against the spread. FYI, that means those away and neutral teams as a favorite or small dog, still a 40% record, not bad. But again, so we're going to be looking for away and neutral dogs of 2.5 or higher with a win percentage of 80% or higher. Again, doesn't happen much, but when it does, they have been a fade. Before I get to our super systems for this week, to finish off our Thanksgiving week video, I do want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy holiday week to watch this video. And my sincerest wishes to you and your families to have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Every Thanksgiving for the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've offered the best special we do. 7-day all access, $67. If you're traveling on vacation, it's the perfect way to sign up. As soon as I release a play, you will get notified. I release my football plays at least a day prior. So all of Saturday's plays are released by Friday. All of Sundays are released by Saturday. And I will have a college football 5%. My college football 5%'s 18-3, 81%. My football 5%'s combined 5-1, 83%, and 23-7, 77% against the spread. I'm thankful. Hopefully you guys have learned something in these videos all season long. If you have, please hit the like button, Leave a comment if there's something you want added or have a question about something. And make sure you're following Wager Talk on all their social media networks. Over 300,000 subscribers follow Wager Talk TV. You should be part of that group. Well, let's take a look. We talked a lot about win percentages today. So I went back to 2011, week number 8 and higher. Teams with a win percentage over 60% that lost by 21 or more points last week. That applies to one team this week. That's the LA Chargers. Those teams that are still a winning record off an ugly loss have gone 26-12, 68.4% against the spread. Again, that's since 2011. FYI, they've also gone 14-24 over under. That's 63% to the under. System number 2. Quick, give me a guess. Since 2015, how many NFL teams have gained 500 yards and lost? Well, the answer, before the New York Giants last week, 37 teams since 2015 have gained at least 500 yards and lost the game. Those teams have not fared well the next week. They have gone 12-25, 32.4% against the spread. It says to fade the New York Giants. System number 3. The Cowboys came from behind to win the game. Teams that trailed by 9 or more at halftime and came back to win have been a fade. They have gone 60-99 ATS since 2012. That is 37.7%. System 3 says to fade the Cowboys. And finally, our fourth system, and this is opposite the other system. And people say, well, why do you give out two systems on two sides? Folks, I am not trying to give you a game to bet. I'm giving you situations to look for, and you have to decide which situation is stronger, how many positives, how many negatives to make your decision on your play. And this one's pretty strong too. Now, the other one's pretty powerful. You have to exert a lot of energy in the second half to overcome that lead. But how about this one? Teams with 4 days of rest or less off an overtime game against an opponent that was not on an overtime game. Well, since 2002, those teams are 5-24 against the spread. That is 17.2%. What two teams were in overtime and now playing on a short week? That, of course, would be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. That record again, 5-24, 17.2% ATS. System 1, play on the Chargers. System 2, fade that team that gave up over 500 yards and lost. Fade the New York Giants. System 3, fade the Cowboys. But System 4 says fade the Chiefs and the Lions on a short week off an overtime game. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Our Turkey Day special, $67 for 7 days. I'll be back next week with some more NFL TNA.